There we go. So for the Vermont Early Childhood Fund, this information session will go over all of the details that around the grant specifics, what has been funded, why is it important that it relates to regional early childhood councils. And again, I'm Beth Truzansky with Building Bright Futures. I'm the Deputy Director and joined by some of our regional team and our state admin team. So just a moment of big picture. We are thrilled about this initiative. And it was just 2 years ago in 2020 when BBF was approached by a generous donor to establish the Vermont Early Childhood Fund with a desire to invest in the needs of communities, and recognized that our 12 regional councils serve as real early childhood experts within communities, and felt like they were the best mechanism to identify the needs and invest these funds into communities. The funder was also really specific that they were looking to disrupt the traditional power structures of existing funding, and was looking for current and non-traditional partners with on-the-ground experience. And we feel like our regional council partners are the group to do this. So funds now flow through the from the funder through the Vermont Community Foundation, and with an award to Building Bright Futures, VCF has been a fabulous partner to connect local philanthropists to direct funds to address critical needs. So thank you for joining, and we are going to jump in with some details. So Allison's going to share her screen. So just again, from this big picture, we do feel like that one priority for this grant opportunity is to consider how this project promotes fairness and equity by incorporating anti-racism and social justice practices into their work. At BBF, we recognize, like many organizations, including our own, traditionally, work has been done within a system that was created and reinforced by white people, and we are actively trying to understand and rebuild. There are inequities built into these structures, and changing them to be anti-racist takes intention. So these are some questions that we have developed, and we encourage you as potential grantees to consider as you write and design your project. These questions include what assumptions are we making in terms of creating this project, this program? What are the right people? Are we the right people to be doing this work? Are there barriers to the services and projects we are offering, designing, or proposing? How does the proposed action expand opportunities for racial equity and social justice? Are there any potential unintended consequences for specific groups or populations? Did everyone present contribute to the conversation in terms of if you're working with collaborative partners, and who else should be included? So those are some questions to consider. Thanks, Allison. Next slide. So now I'm going to hand this over to my fabulous colleague, Darla, who's going to introduce herself and talk a little bit about kind of how this fund is related to regional councils.
Hi, everyone. Give me 1 second. I just lost my, here we go, my talking points. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Darla Sedigal, Regional Manager for Addison, Bennington, and Rutland counties for BBF. Each year, BBF regional councils, who are the early childhood experts in their communities, identify 2 key issues impacting children and families for each of the 12 BBF regions in Vermont. Recognizing the expertise of these regional councils, and in order to use the funds most effectively, the Vermont Early Childhood Fund uses the regional priorities to guide this investment of $100,000 to fund regional creative solutions. So what you're seeing here is a map of the regional priorities identified by councils in May of June of this year. We're really looking forward to projects that address at least one of the regional priorities. I would like to share an example of a VECF funded project from last year in one of the counties that I serve. So Bennington last year created a vision and hearing screening project. So babies and toddlers in the Bennington region now have better access to vision and hearing screenings through the Children's Integrated Services Early Intervention Program. Jenny Moon, who's the program coordinator of Children's Integrated Services Early Intervention Program in Bennington, recognized that there was an urgent need for additional vision and hearing screenings for children 3 and under. And she decided to take action by applying and receiving a grant from the Vermont Early Childhood Fund. These screenings are important for early identification. If a child has a vision or hearing loss, this is the first step to connecting them with the supports they need, like glasses, hearing aids, or teaching methods that'll support the learning and their learning and development. With funds received, Jenny was able to purchase equipment that's designed to be operated by early childhood professionals and others without any medical training. These screenings can be administered in 3 to 5 seconds. So if the screening determines that there's a need for further assessment, CIS provides the child's family with options for referrals to a specialist, shares the test with the child's pediatrician, and follows up as needed. There's also a real hope to share the data that they're able to collect from these screenings, and hopes that be a catalyst for other regions to be able to find support and also offer additional screenings throughout the state of Vermont. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Linda. Thanks, Linda.
Hi, thank you, Darla. This is Linda McNowitz, the Regional Manager for Caledonia, Essex, Lamoille, and Orleans counties. And I'm going to talk about the application process, which is meant to be fairly easy, not an excruciating process like some of us may be used to. So the first important thing is that the applications are due on Friday, October 7th. And those are by email to Beth Truzansky. The application packet includes a cover page, and there is a template that is provided, a 2-page letter, and you can see the application guidelines for what to include, a project budget, and there's also a template provided, letters of support, 2 letters of support. Those are optional though, so and I don't believe there's any extra points if you have them or not. There's $100,000 available for grants that would be in the amounts of between $10,000 and $20,000. And the grant cycle will run from December 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2023. The frequently asked questions document is available, and that has lots of details and links to resources that are shared in this presentation. There's also a few details that we're looking for in the 2-page letter, and these are noted in the application instructions, and I will review them here. It's important to have your project name, a bit about your organization, your group and the work that it does, a description of the project that you're proposing, and also the target audience being served and the number of people you anticipate the project will impact if funded. How this project is a great fit for your community and organization is, and also that it be illustrated through a story or an example. And also, how does this project respond to one of the identified regional council priorities? Key project partners should be included, and how they will work with you as part of this project. For example, parents, community organizations, businesses. And finally, if you are considering an application, the regional manager in your region is a great person to connect with to review the process if you would like some guidance. We have outlined the grant process, application criteria, and what you can and cannot be funded for in the frequently asked questions document. We will put the link in the chat. And right now I'm going to hand things back to Beth to talk about some of these details, and then we'll take some questions. Beth?
Thanks, Linda. Yes, so we just wanted to go through some of these details to make sure everyone's on the same page, and then we can open for questions. So feel free to put those in the chat if you had them. So who should apply? We're looking for projects that address regional council priorities identified as we shared in the map. So I know I have gotten a whole slew of questions from statewide organizations. Statewide organizations are eligible to apply, but again, this is a regional focused grant. So you really are looking for something that will relate to a region or a collection of regions. It's really not designed for statewide efforts. We are giving preference will be given to projects that promote fairness and equity, as I shared from the start, by incorporating anti-racism and social justice practices into your work. And VECF seeks to fund projects that generally are otherwise not eligible for other funding opportunities and in regions that did not receive funds in previous years. So we do anticipate making, roughly 7 grants. And there are a few regions that did not receive awards last year. So that's just a little bit of kind of the priorities in terms of who can apply. And then in terms of what can be funded, again, this is in the FAQs, but just briefly, what can be funded? You can pay people, it can be stipends, salaries, presenter fees, those types of things. You can buy materials or equipment. You could use it for messaging, outreach, publicity, those types of things, printing. You can use it to pay for food, and up to 10% may be used towards overhead or basic operating expenses. That's not an all-inclusive list, but that gives you a sense of what can be funded. What cannot be funded? Well, you can't pay off debt or pay for things that have already been purchased. So you have to wait to purchase things within the grant period. Can't buy alcohol. The funds cannot go to just one person without a fiscal sponsorship. So there really needs to be some kind of organization or agency in lead. The funds cannot be used to be contributed to fundraisers such as capital campaigns or pay for anything that happens outside of the grant agreement dates. So with that, I will open it up to questions. So Stephanie, you asked, does the 2-page application essay include all of the questions? Yes, so we have changed the application process from last year. So last year we did kind of 2 rounds. We've tried to simplify it. So we are asking that the 2-page letter application addresses the questions that and the information that we want you to address. Wendy asked, do you have to have a 501c3 status to apply? You do not need to have a 501c3 status to apply. So this could be like a private childcare program, or a family childcare provider could also apply. Margot asked, is there a complete list of what or where projects were funded last year? We do have a complete list. It's kind of at the bottom of that VECF page with the link that I shared earlier. There were 7 grantees, and all of those are listed on that page. Elsa asked if there's a preference for projects that have impact beyond a single program staff, parents, students. We have not articulated if there needs to be impact beyond a program. We are really looking for creative solutions to regional issues. And so we're looking for your ideas there. Melinda, I see your hand up.
Hi, yes. So I work as the director of the whole district. So could I apply for a district grant, or could I apply by site since we have 5 preschool sites?
You could apply under either of those, whichever makes most sense for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And recognizing, like, for school districts, it doesn't have to fall exactly within any one regional council. You may identify one that you fall primarily in, or to say we kind of fall between two regional council areas. Good question. Let's see, I'm going to go back to the chat, but if people have questions, feel free to raise your hand. Jen, you asked, should our project address a regional priority for our specific region? Yes, we are asking for projects to be related to the region, one of the two regional council priorities that your region has identified. So you want to write to that. Joyce, you had a question about the essay. So essentially we are asking, the application involves a 2-page letter, and we've identified a bunch of criteria that we want you to fit into that letter so that we can kind of evaluate what your project is, who's applying, who's involved. So that's essentially what is outlined. And I would say that if you want some more guidance on that, it's probably best to connect with the regional manager in your area to be able to kind of think through that. I'll pause with the chat, and Anna, you have a question.
Yeah, this piggybacks off a previous question, but I just wanted to clarify that we could submit one grant for 2 different regions that we cover, and then in that grant just specify the areas of interest in both regions. Is that right? And then the amount of funding we're asking for can reflect that it will cover 2 regions.
Yes, you can. Okay. That would be fine. Yep. Awesome. Linda asked if who would put in the fiscal agent spot on the cover page if you are not a 501c3. So if you are applying as a primary applicant and funds would flow to your childcare program, nonprofit agency, funds may flow directly. In some cases, there's a project that may flow through a fiscal agent because it's not its own kind of entity. So the fiscal agent information is only needed if the funds flowing are going to a different organization or agency than kind of the applicant. There was a question if funds can be used to pay for pre-K aid salaries. So I think for salaries, again, I think you want to be able to make a case on kind of what's the solution, what's the creative project, and how is it related to the regional council need. Certainly, providing support in a classroom may do that, but I would say generally this is not something to pay kind of ongoing salaries. This is clearly a very short-term grant program. So you're looking for projects that run within the time frame of this project, which is essentially December through December. Lots of questions. You guys have them. Awesome. Julia asked if a project has been funded in our region last year, is there any chance our project would get funded, or is it automatically disqualified? No, projects are not automatically disqualified. We're just saying that that preference is given to regions that did not receive funds last year, but there's still enough grants to award to other, we anticipate making probably 7 or 8 grants. So all regions are invited to apply. Akshata, you asked that you're located in Chittenden. Can I partner with a regional council and priority from a different county or region? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about the service that you're bringing to that region, and that is totally fine. Keegan, you asked if we're planning on collaborating with multiple community partners on a project. Would you like a list of all of them in the initial application, or can we include a handful of the key partners and add in additional ones when the work plan is due 30 days after the award letter? Yeah, that's a good question. If it's an extensive list, we don't necessarily need the whole list. We can wait for those details. Just giving us a sense of the diversity of partners you're working with is totally fine. Riva's question, single application covering 2 regions could request 20 to 40,000 to make sure there is access for both regions. Unfortunately, no, that our application cap is 20,000, even if you are serving more than 1 region. So you would need to make a decision if you can serve 2 regions with the funds, the maximum amount of funds that's awarded. And then there's another question, if you can get the slides. We're happy to share the slides. We're also recording this information session, so we'll get you the information. I would say everything that's in the slides is also in the frequently asked questions. So maybe someone on my team can put that link. It's a Google Docs, which continues to be updated. We essentially have, I would say, 4 key documents that you want to be looking at. There's the kind of application guidelines overview, there's the frequently asked questions, and then there's templates for the cover letter. There's a cover page and for the budget. So those are some of the key documents. A question from Ashley, do you ever fund more than 1 project per region, or is it limited to 1 grant per region? We have funded more than 1 grant per region. So that is a possibility. Could you talk about project reporting requirements, if any? So project reporting requirements have been fairly minimal. That's our hope. We asked for a mid-year report and then a final report, which is really kind of answering 4 or 5 questions, so no more than a page in terms of reporting. And then frequently, most of the reporting and contact comes with contact with our regional managers and the regional council. So most of all of our grantees this year have established or maintained a connection to our regional councils. You know, Darla, I don't know if you want to respond to this, or Linda, but you know, the projects have really benefited by staying connected to regional councils and being able to kind of access resources and troubleshoot in that way. I don't know if someone on my team wants to respond to that.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. My hope is that this will help bring more diverse partners to the council table and that they can take advantage of the resources at that table. So for instance, I would say, well, Stephanie's here today and she did a great program down in Bennington. She's been someone who's been at the regional table, but she's been able to use that grant in a way that she was headed in one direction, but the grant actually, the program actually led itself to a different partnership. She was doing a workforce investment sort of piece, bringing folks into her program, an apprenticeship program, and actually ended up partnering with a local high school as well. So yeah, there were some connections to be made there that can possibly come back to the council table. So while it's not a requirement, I hope that you'll join us.
Thanks, Darla. Great. Another question from the chat is if the funding we request covers 2 or 3 programs, would that be okay, or would it be better to just fund 1 program? We really encourage collaboration and, you know, being able to serve particularly, you know, communities and populations that are not otherwise accessing resources. So whether that is 1 or more programs, I think that's really up to you. We have, when you look at some of the grantees from this year, there's really a whole range of some projects that were really within a certain program and some that are kind of across a region or multiple partners. Thanks, Allison. I see Allison from our team posted the FAQ document, so that's a good one to review. So I wonder if I missed any questions or if there's anything that anyone on my team wants to add.
There was a question, Beth, about talking about the project reporting requirements, which I don't think we've covered. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, so I think we covered a little bit that we have a mid-year report and an end-of-year report that is fairly straightforward with a couple of questions, no more than a page written, and really maintaining connection to our regional council. So the reporting is fairly straightforward. Funding, if granted, grantees receive the first half of the funds once the initial contract is signed, and then the other half is dispersed after the mid-year report, as long as the project is running as planned, or I say as agreed upon. We know that there are changes, that things come up, and we have definitely made adjustments to budgets and to kind of project expectations as that happens. Let's see, a couple more in the chat. So Lori, you asked, is reduced funding an option? For example, if we apply for 20,000, might we receive an offer of 15,000? Yes, that is possible based on the requests that we receive and final decisions. And then, you know, certainly an adjustment of what you anticipate you can do if we are awarding you less than what you requested. Sarah's question is, if we're interested in using funds to help support technological database lift, would that be acceptable? Yes, that is an eligible expense. All right, any other questions? This information session is getting me super excited to see all of your applications and really appreciate the good communication. Again, questions can come to me or the regional manager in your region at any time. So we met Darla and Linda. Courtney, maybe you can introduce yourself, and I'll step in for Ali, who couldn't be here today.
Sure. Thanks, Beth. I'm Courtney Hillhouse. I'm the regional manager for Southeast Vermont, the Springfield area, and Northern Windsor and Orange counties.
Awesome. And Ali Dang is our regional manager serving Chittenden, Central, and Franklin Grand Isle. Let's see, a couple more questions. No, I will answer that separately. So I think that probably brings us to hopefully answering most of your questions. I would say if you have any others, feel free to direct them to myself or any of our regional managers. We look forward to seeing your applications on or before October 7th. And then we'll be in touch with you in the following few weeks when we have announcements. So I think that's all. I will stop recording, and if there's other questions, I will stay on to answer them.